What are the 5 things you love most about the car industry? It's important to know what motivates us in this challenging industry, and it has to be more than just money because we are all capable of making money in some other industry. Today, I'm going to talk about my favorite things about this industry, and I hope it inspires you to look at what you love about our industry as well.
Welcome to Down Payment, the podcast for used car dealers. Prepare to learn something new about the industry that keeps us moving.
Check out all our podcast content on our social media channels. We are at Down Payment Podcast on YouTube, Down Payment Podcast on Instagram, and Down Payment Pod on X. Welcome back. In this episode, I want to make it a little bit more of a motivational episode. In so many of our episodes, we talk about challenges in the car industry, difficulties dealers are facing, and hopefully strategies and ways to overcome those challenges. But still, I want to re-emphasize the good parts of this industry. There are some great things about the car industry, and we don't talk about them enough. And so in this episode, I wanted to talk about my 5 favorite things in this industry. This industry is near and dear to my heart because I grew up in it. My parents were car dealers. I was working in the car business since about the age of 5, where I had my first job in the business was with canceled checks you would get in the mail from the bank. My job was to put them in check number order. And I was doing that from like age 5. And the work just increased from there, worked in the business all the way through until we shut down retail operations in 2022. So I have a long perspective on this industry, and despite its challenges, its difficulties, I have a love for this industry. So I have my top 5 favorite things about this industry. There are a lot of things I love about it, but these are my top 5. And I'm going to start with number 5, and that is the creative problem solving. This is an industry that really forces you to be a problem solver. It's a challenging industry. We've talked about in previous episodes why it's such a challenging industry. It's hyper competitive, and you constantly have problems presenting themselves, and it makes you develop this creative problem solving skill set. And it's always interesting. It's always dynamic. It's always changing. And it forces you to think outside of the box. It forces you to really look inwards and develop some grit. It's what makes our industry, frankly, more interesting than most other industries in the economy. We have a really interesting industry here. You got to be a problem solver. You got to stay in the fight. It requires grit, determination, and honestly, it brings out the best in our industry. Number 4, the customers. If you don't like your customers, you need to get out of this industry. The customers are honestly one of the best parts of the business. And yes, we have problem customers. We have difficult people that we deal with on a daily basis. But even a lot of your quote unquote difficult customers are actually amazing people. And if you understand their perspective and you learn a little bit about them and you can come up with a solution for their problem, work through difficult times with them, you actually gain an amazing relationship with them. And the successful dealers are able to build a bond and a relationship between their customers, themselves, their employees, and their brand. And when you develop that, that is something very special. And you don't have that type of close connection with your customers in other industries like you have in ours. You know, your big box retail stores don't have that type of relationship, that personal relationship with their customers that you have the opportunity to foster and develop in automotive. I think that's really special. I think we develop bigger, better, longer term bonds with our customers than even real estate and realtors. Realtors, Yeah, it's a higher dollar, bigger purchase. While in a short amount of time, they have a lot more interaction with their customers than we do. Their customers will only make a purchase from them possibly once in their life. Whereas in automotive, you can build relationships with customers that potentially span decades. Show me another industry that has that. Number 3, it's one of the tough parts of the car business, but I think it's one of the cool parts of it, and that is the constant change. This industry forces you to adapt on a constant basis. It's not the same. You are not doing the same thing for 20 or 30 years in this industry. There is no job literally in this industry that is the same today as it was 30 years ago. Our industry has had dramatic, constant change. And I remember change coming. Marketing is a great way to look at it. When at one point in time, all of our advertising was basically through newspapers and printed material. And now I don't know anyone that's effectively advertising in newsprint successfully for their dealership. That's gone. I remember a time when Craigslist was extremely effective for our industry. And I remember, at least in this market, when Craigslist stopped being effective for automotive marketing. The constant change is part of what makes our industry very, very, very interesting. And instead of hating the change, I think the most effective strategy is to embrace it, to love it, and to always be looking for the next big thing to make your dealership successful. Number 2, my second most favorite thing about this industry is the community. So as your dealership matures over time, if you're doing it right, you build bonds with community. You have an ecosystem of customers, of employees, and vendors. And in some level, they are all dependent on you, and you're dependent on them. It's a mutual dependence. And you build bonds to the wider community, the city you're in, the local government, the local police, the politicians, the community activists. And if you're doing it right, you really integrate into your community. It's something we've talked about in previous episodes, and it's definitely something we'll talk about in upcoming episodes. But the community aspect of a car dealership is such a vital part of every city, of every town. They all have car dealerships, and well-run car dealerships really could take a prominent role in their communities if the dealership is doing it right. And then my top, number 1, most favorite thing about the car business, the family aspect. This is an industry that still has a lot of family businesses, and they're big, successful, prominent family businesses. I can't think of another industry that has prominent family businesses as such a large part of it still to this day. That is one of the best things about this industry is you have family businesses and they feel like family businesses, and they have family involvement and multi-generational involvement, and it actually, I think, is one of the things that ties into then community as well. And I think that's a really important thing about our industry. It's one of the things that in our podcast and in our training operation that we have going on here, one of the things that we try to support as much as possible is the family-owned dealership. I think it's a great part of America, and it's something to love about our industry. What are your 5 most favorite things? Something to think about, keeps you motivated to keep on going in this industry. With that, it's been another episode of Down Payment, the podcast for used car dealers. Check out our podcast on all our social media channels. We are at Down Payment Podcast on YouTube, Down Payment Podcast on Instagram, and Down Payment Pod on X.
Thank you for listening. Down Payment, the podcast for used car dealers, is a production of Meta Financial Services Incorporated.